right, hi there, and welcome to what we're going to call the email etiquette class. Now, this is a supplemental lesson. It's designed for anybody in ROTC to utilize. It's not part of any type of ROTC curriculum, but it is going to encompass some skills that you should know and understand as future military leaders and really just leaders in general. So my name is Captain Silver Beatty. I'm an APMS there at the University of Montana, and I'm going to be leading you through this lesson. So when we talk about email etiquette, we're going to talk a few things. One, we're going to understand why this matters as leaders. I'm going to explain to you the proper protocol for professional electronic correspondence, or what we typically would think of as emails. I'm going to describe for you the ideal email format. We're going to discuss the use of what we call active voice. And you've likely covered, if you're an MS2 or above, you've probably covered a lesson discussing active voice. So we'll just kind of go over that quickly, but I do encourage you to look more into that as well. Then we're going to examine the different forms of closing and signature blocks. I'm going to help you understand common mistakes and how to avoid them. And then I will encourage you to apply email etiquette to a scenario. So first off, why this matters. Well, the first thing is that effective communication is absolutely crucial for mission success, coordination, and professionalism. And there is a class in the MS2 curriculum that discusses the actual communication process, as well as a pretty deep dive into it in the MS1 curriculum as well. It's also important because proper email etiquette ensures our clarity, accountability, and really kind of promotes that idea of respect. We adhere to established rules that enhance the overall efficiency of our communication. And bottom line, our first impressions can last forever. So it's very important that you understand how to properly create, send, distribute emails, because this is our very common use of communication within the military and life in general, right? So I've created a few rules for this. We're going to go through these 10 rules for professional email correspondence. And again, you can utilize this outside of the military as well. Any type of professional or student-based email correspondence should follow these rules. So we're going to talk about acknowledging receipt, using professional accounts, the ideal email format, the use of active voice, how to be clear and concise, using our proper grammar and punctuation, how to end with respect, how to use a signature block, and then a couple of those mistakes there on the bottom. Reply all is a trap, and did you attach the attachment? So rule 1, acknowledging receipt. This is incredibly important. You need to promptly acknowledge that you received the email. Even if you don't have the answers or have what they're looking for, if they've requested something, at least let the sender know that you received and have read their email. Otherwise, you might be receiving follow-up emails and asking for more information from you if you haven't responded in the first place. I like to tell people that there's ways that we can respond and acknowledge even without the information that we have. And some of those can be just like that. I received your email, I will get on this ASAP, or acknowledging receipt, I'll follow up in such and such days. The reason for this is that it ensures accountability and it keeps all the parties informed and aligned on what's going on with maybe a project or a long-term situation that they're trying to get information on, or maybe they've instructed you to do something. It's very important to acknowledge that you received that instruction and that you are going to do it. So that's where it's saying that it ensures accountability. Now, rule number 2, using professional accounts. This will vary based on your organization, but it's very important that you use your official school or military accounts depending on the correspondence. It's just a habit to get into so that your personal and professional lives can remain separate, right? We don't want to be utilizing our personal emails that we're utilizing for our friends or we're using for different accounts or subscriptions to get jumbled up with stuff from our professional lives. So I do encourage you to make sure that you are using personal accounts for personal reasons and use your official accounts for official correspondence. With that, you do want to avoid personal accounts, maybe because they're not 100% professionally written. I say that there that no one will take an email from dandykitten420@gmail.com seriously. So it maintains that professional aura that you might have by using some sort of professional account. And then this one for cybersecurity and any type of sensitive or classified information, we do want to use encryption tools. I do encourage you to look through whatever email platform that you use to see how to encrypt an email, but it is necessary to do that for any personal, sensitive, or classified information. And a note here, you should all be checking and utilizing your .edu or .mil accounts regularly if you have them. I know a lot of people don't like using their school emails. It's just one additional email that's added to their list that they have to check. But all professional and official correspondence from your university, maybe even your ROTC department, would be going through your EDU and should be. So I very much encourage you to be checking that. Put it on your phone, have it bookmarked on your computer somewhere so you can do regular checks of that. And if you're a contracted cadet, use your .mil account if you can, if you have it set up. If you don't have it set up, go find your HRA. Make sure that you have a way to actually get a hold and get into that .mil account, because any type of military correspondence should be going through that. All right, now using the ideal email format. When we do this, we want to really think about how do we write an essay, right? We have our subject line that needs to be clear and informative. Then you want to use a salutation. Use it as formal or informal as necessary. You're going to hear me say throughout this to know your audience, but if it's the first time, or depending on what your instructors or other ROTC members might expect, you should be starting with the greeting of the day and then their title, whether that's sir, ma'am, Mr., Ms., Miss, or their rank. And then the structure of your email should be treated, again, just like an essay. You've got an introduction, your body, and your conclusion. That conclusion should just summarize your key points, provide any follow-up actions, or these are things that I tend to use at the end of my emails. Please let me know if you need anything else from me, or please reach out with any questions. Again, know your audience, but following this format really is no fail. Next, the idea of using active voice. Choose active voice verbiage for clarity and directness. That's why we utilize that. We want to be wary of words that are like just or hoping, aka just get to the point. You also want to identify the subject before performing the action. That's how active voice works. So rather than saying mistakes were made, we're going to say I made mistakes. That's an example of utilizing active voice. This practice really does help you take ownership of your statement, and it promotes that accountability and decisiveness. I really encourage you, practice this now. It is crucial to utilize active voice in your military leadership. And a personal opinion of mine, don't be afraid to use AI tools like ChatGPT to construct those active voice statements. I utilize those on a regular basis. I'll type out my thought, put it into ChatGPT and say, rewrite this in active voice. Now, don't be utilizing that tool to be plagiarizing or writing your essays for you, but it is a great tool to help you understand what active voice should look like. Rule number 5, be clear and concise. This is pretty self-explanatory. We want to clearly state the purpose in our opening statement, right? Avoid that fluff, get to the point. Even use bullet points or numbered lists for important information. This is easier for your reader, your receiver, to actually see what you're trying to get through. So I highly recommend bullet points. Prioritizing your brevity, but don't sacrifice necessary details. So make it as short and condensed as possible, but don't sacrifice the details that you need to have in that. That can be a little bit of a balance and a practice. Keep working on that. And then here's an example. You could send, I just wanted to let you know I finished the assignment, or if we're going to be clear and concise, I completed my assignment, ma'am. See the difference in that? Again, I encourage you to use AI tools to assist you in these things. And rule number 6, this one's a big one because a lot of your credibility can come down to your use of grammar and punctuation. You need to adhere to proper grammar and punctuation rules, which something like Grammarly might be able to help you with your sentence structure. I still utilize that. I have it set up on my computer to essentially look over anything I'm typing out. It pops up things that I might have missed in emails. It pops up on Word documents. So Grammarly is a great thing to use. And it's so important to use correct spelling, capitalize where necessary, and employ your appropriate punctuation, right? So ensure that you spell check. Spell check, spell check. Now, spell check is not a no-fail resource, right? Because we can use affect versus effect. So read over your entire email before hitting send and make sure it makes sense. And one other opinion thing I'll say on here, avoid overusing emotional punctuation. I have had a habit in the past of using exclamation marks on a regular basis. I now go through all my emails when I use too many exclamations because I'm a pretty high intensity, big personality person, and I rewrite things to make sure that I'm not having 10,000 exclamation points in my emails. And like I said, your credibility is marked by how you write. This shows your attention to detail. And somebody, maybe higher ranking that's reading your email, if you have a lot of mistakes in there, it automatically tells me that you don't have that attention to detail attribute, and that can hurt your credibility. Now, rule number 7, ending with respect. Your closing is determined by your audience. So the basic rule of thumb, and this is somewhat Army-wide, it's really going to depend again like your organization, but using just respectfully is kind of your standard informal way that you close out. It's usually used for your subordinates or your peers, whereas adding the word very is more formal and usually used for higher ranking recipients. I tend to use respectfully on a regular basis because most of the people I correspond with are familiar to me, even if they are higher ranking. But this is important. It's important to know your audience and know what they would expect. You'll never go wrong by saying very respectfully. But speaking of very respectfully, this next part is majorly an opinion. This is my personal opinion. It's something I've heard from other people, which made it my opinion. Avoid your lazy closings. So to me, V/R, which means very respectfully, is kind of a lazy way to write that. Just take the time to write it all out, or just include it as part of your signature block if you have set signature blocks, which we'll talk about in a moment. And then again, you need to know your audience, but in official or professional writings, maybe with somebody that you don't know as well, I would avoid using casual closings like thanks or best regards. Your closing reflects your own professionalism, and then it also helps acknowledge the emphasis that we have on respect and hierarchy in the military. Rule number 8, use a signature block. This is something you'll have to utilize throughout your entire career, regardless of what field you're in. And there are different ways that you can automatically set those. Check your platform, whether you're using Outlook or your .mil or even your personal ones, but you want to include a standardized and professional signature block. These can look very different depending on your organization, but you want to make sure that you're including your full name, your rank or position, your unit or the affiliation that you have, and any pertinent contact information. And like I said, you do want to pre-build those signature blocks on your server. You can do that so that you avoid having to write it out every time, and you can even set separate signatures for replies, new emails, etc. Consistent and well-formatted signature block reinforces that accountability, provides context as to who you are when the person is reading it, and then it facilitates that quick contact by having your contact information on there. And now here are just some examples of signature blocks that you could utilize. Feel free to take a picture or screenshot this. These are a few setups that we have between our cadets and or myself. I have several different signature blocks because I wear a few different hats. But as you can see there are 4 different examples here. That is 4 of very, very many. Again, feel free to use AI to create your signature block. Or if you are part of an organization, like for me at the University of Louisville, I'm a student there. I've actually just copied what other people within that organization have used and changed it to my own information. That way it's a little bit more uniform and it's more obvious of who I am and what affiliation I have. All right, now into the fun ones. Rule number 9, reply all is a trap. You have to exercise caution when you're using reply all in emails. This is especially important when replying on a large distro. Make sure that when you're using reply all, the response is actually relevant to all participants on that CC line and actually contributes to the overall communication. You don't want to become an Army WTF or a Twitter meme by being that person that replies all to a distro of thousands of people, right? It clogs up inboxes. People are going to make fun of you. It becomes a long, drawn out 1, 2, 3 day event of people replying all over and over again. I have made the mistake of replying all to a large distro. Don't do what I've done. With this, you do want to read through the to and the CC lines before choosing that reply option. Don't just automatically reply all. And like I said, it helps making sure of this and watching what your reply all is helps maintain streamlined and effective communication, but it can overload inboxes with unnecessary clutter. I'm sure somebody in your ROTC cadre membership has been a part of a reply all disaster. Don't let this be you. And the next one and last one that gets so many people, rule number 10, did you attach the attachment? Always double check and confirm the inclusion of those necessary attachments, especially when replying on a large distro. Otherwise, you're going to be sending a follow-up email saying, sorry, whoops, here's what I meant to attach. One common practice that I use actually is I just apply the attachments before I even start writing my email. But you do need to make sure that they're getting the correct version. So if you're one like me where you're typing out an email and then you go over and check that attachment and there's a couple of updates you need to make to it, make sure you save it and you're attaching the correct and most updated version of that attachment. And then another thing that I say is clearly mention that there are attached files in the body of the email. So I always say, please see attached or attached you will find. And the reason for this is because there is a catch-all on most servers that will ask you if you meant to attach a file, but they'll only do that if you use the word attach in your body. So you'll have like Outlook will pop up and be like, send anyway? Are you sure you didn't actually attach anything? That way you can go back and make sure that it's attached. And then like I said, you do want to make sure that those attached documents are in the correct format and that they are labeled appropriately. Make sure that they are labeled appropriately and in a professional manner. All right, so that is Captain Beatty's class on email etiquette. Again, I encourage you to talk with your own ROTC department and or other organizations that you might be affiliated with. See what their expectations are. These are just kind of those rules of thumb that are common practice within the Army. So what we did is we went over why this matters as leaders, the proper protocol for email correspondence. We talked about the ideal email format, right? The use of active voice and how we can use AI to help us with that. We talked about the different forms of closing and signature blocks. And then we finished out with those common mistakes of reply all and attachments and how we can avoid them. As always, if you have any questions, I encourage you to reach out to your own ROTC instructor, maybe find an MS4, a high-speed MS3 to get your questions answered. If you still can't get those answers, feel free to reach out to me at silver.beatty@mso.umt.edu, and I will do my best to help you. Thank you.